We're now here with Mary Szacik. Mary is involved with the New Jersey Communities United as a field organizer. Many times in the activities that we have been engaged in, we have been able to bump into Mary, and her energy is overwhelming in relationship to the kind of effort that she has been making to reach the community that really needs to have an awareness about the foreclosure crises. We're certainly happy to have her here because now we're going to help her expand her relationship, especially in the Irvington community. Mary, thank you very much. We're very happy to have you here with us. One of the logics that has transpired in regard to the relationship of raising awareness about this particular situation of housing and how it has evolved to what it is today has been the effort of people coalitioning and groups coming together, unifying a united front so that we can be adequate about pretty much resolving this problem, knowing that that is the characteristic that is going to find promise towards a solution. Share with us exactly your background, how you started, and just what is the New Jersey Communities United?
First of all, thanks so much, Herb, for having me here. And I am really thrilled to have an opportunity to deepen our work in Irvington, especially. So I work for New Jersey Communities United, and we are a grassroots community organizing group that works in low-income communities, largely in urban areas, whose voices typically get marginalized or ignored. And we work with those communities to create a space for those voices to be amplified. And we do that through direct action, we do that through strategic partnerships, and we do that through really listening to what the people need and have to say and helping to strategize to get those things addressed. And one of those major things that's devastating New Jersey, but also the rest of the country, is the foreclosure crisis that happened started 5 years ago with the burst of the housing bubble. And we know that it's not getting better. And so the work that Communities United does with issues of economic justice are directly connected to the bursting of the housing bubble and the bank fraud and malfeasance that created it to begin with. And we also do other work, important work that resonates in communities as well, which have to do with strong public schools, strong worker organizing and labor organizing. So those are sort of the three components, and also we're doing some immigration reform and rights work as well. We're starting to do that. So we have several campaigns. The one that I'm intimately familiar with, that I've been working on nonstop for the last year, is doing the homeowner organizing, the community organizing that's involved mostly with the anti-foreclosure fight.
Now, the idea about that and the energy that needs to be really put in it is that it's a vast area. You do a lot of traveling. I think the last time we talked, you were in Washington, and there was some activities really going on in terms, and not to say it was about housing, but it was definitely about organizing. Right. The focus of where your time is really spent really is developing ways in which you have an opportunity to give the kinds of relationships to individuals that we don't have access to most of the time because we're not able to go there and do those types of things. So it really builds a strong understanding of why you want to expand your relationship in other communities. But how did you start? What is your background?
My background, I have a lot of community organizing experience, social justice experience, pretty much from the last decade. And internationally and here in my home where I'm from, Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, and I moved here to New Jersey 3 years ago to complete a Master of Social Work program, at Monmouth University. And it's a international and community development program that's really unique because it has a strong emphasis on human rights and social justice, which is why I choose the program, which is why I moved across the country, because I knew I wanted to be a part of that. So during that time, I organized, I was an intern organizing with Change to Win on a ports campaign, organizing port truck drivers at the ports of Newark, and really understood this deep economic connection that we have to the lowest paid workers in this country and all along the supply chain. And then when I graduated, the Communities United was newly founded, actually in May last year. And so I had the opportunity to come on board with them as a field organizer and start continuing the labor organizing work through with in-home child care providers in Essex County and Passaic County, now in Monmouth County, soon in Union. So we're going to be all over, and on top of that, this anti-foreclosure fight, and really looking at what it means to engage with people on a one-on-one basis, particularly in the foreclosure crisis, because in this country, we don't talk about money, and we certainly don't talk about debt. And so when homeowners go through this horrific experience of what it's like to lose your home or to go through the process and fight with your bank, they have been suffering in silence. And it's insidious because the banks perpetrated this crisis on homeowners, and specifically on certain communities in this country. And so with the subprime lending and all of the fraud and all of that stuff, in spite of all of that, people still feel, and the message is still reinforced by the media, by the courts, it's my fault. I shouldn't have done this. I should have known better. I shouldn't have, I didn't know what I was signing, like this whole. And for me to be able to have we have the resources, that's my job, is to go out and to talk to people and to reframe that. Yeah, okay, maybe you shouldn't have signed the adjustable rate mortgage with an 11% interest rate. Maybe you were targeted. Maybe you were told, don't worry about it. You sit across from the table from somebody who's an expert in this field. You trust them to be ethical and to not get you into something that you wouldn't be able to sustain. And you think, and you're part of the American dream.
Right.
All of us do. That's what this country is built on, right? And what I'm realizing more and more is that it's the American myth. And that the truth is that a vast majority of the 16 some odd million homeowners who are now, they've got the noose tightening around their neck as they're facing losing their homes and destabilizing their family and their community, is that person sitting across the table from them was never ethical. In fact, they sold that mortgage to you with the intention that it would fail. Even if you had good credit, there were certain people who were targeted and pushed into subprime loans and adjustable rate mortgages, even if you had a good credit score that would qualify you for a more stable tool. So reframing that guilt and that shame that a homeowner is going through, and getting them out of their house, literally out onto the street, talking to other homeowners, connecting with each other. It's a slow build, and it's a lot of time and energy and resources, and I understand why it's so difficult to do it effectively, but we are really building this amazing group of people. And it's not just Communities United here in New Jersey. We're part of the Home Defenders League, which is a national campaign, and so people like me are doing this work all over the country. So that's when I was in DC, that's what we were doing. These were everyday people who were protesting at the Department of Justice because these big bankers from Wall Street artificially inflated the price of our homes, made billions and billions of dollars. It's $1 trillion market, the housing market in this country. And then they tanked our economy, and not one person has gone to jail from Wall Street for it. And so the message in D.C. was, that's not right. That's not right. Eric Holder said they're too big to jail. They're going to tank our economy if we start to prosecute them. The whole global market is going to be disrupted. And we're like, that happened 5 years ago, like they already did that. What could be worse? This housing crisis triggered a global economic crisis. So our homeowners and activists and community members went to D.C. to occupy the Department of Justice to demand a meeting with Eric Holder, and several of them got arrested in the process. There were 34 people over the course of a week that ended up in jail. And we think they're the wrong people who are in jail.
Right. And then unfortunately, because we don't have enough strength of numbers behind us to help really put something legitimate behind their effort, they're almost there alone. You have had some successes, though.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a success that had occurred here in Irvington with a homeowner that was being forced out. Share with us exactly what that process was and how it still is under scrutiny to the extent that we may have to get back out and establish the same kind of attitude.
Right. So I think the case you're referring to was actually one of the partner organizations that we work really closely with 2 years ago now. So before we were doing this work, there were other people in the community doing good work as well. And they had a successful home defense. One of the big 5 lenders that has perpetuated this crisis and continues to was foreclosing on an elderly woman in Irvington, East Orange, right? And so they did a successful home defense. And what's been happening, though, is these banks, they know there's problems with the paperwork. There's been so much fraud and so much documents not recorded properly and just all this gray area. So they know when they've got a problem, if there's public scrutiny on it and legal scrutiny on it, then they get a little, okay, so maybe we need to they cross our I's and dot our T's. So they stopped the sheriff's sale effectively, and the servicer went away, and really it feels like it's just sort of going back through and making sure it's not really gone away, but it's sort of building its case. And this is what's happening. We're calling them walkaways, right? So the bank starts a foreclosure proceeding against a homeowner, goes through, puts the homeowner through. I mean, it's horrible.
Just turmoil. Just turmoil.
Yeah. And then they walk away.
I can hear the passion because you get personally involved with these individuals. Yeah. And the whole idea about what it is that we're really trying to do is to invite you to get actively involved in this campaign, because it's not going to end, and the only way that we can be able to do something about it is that there are individuals that have been affected by it that are not coming out and not making us aware of who you are, simply because of the fact that you may be afraid or you just may not be sure.
Or tired.
And in most cases,
they wear you
exactly. People are being forced away from having a decent lifestyle by virtue of the fact that they were put into a situation that they had no control over in the first place. Right. So what is our plan? Our plan.
So we've had several successful actions, and the plan is to continue those actions and to build. We took a bus full of people to Governor Christie's house on December 6th last year, and we held a vigil for the foreclosed homeowners, the homeless families because of foreclosure, and also because that was right after the Superstorm Sandy hit. So we had a great action, and those things bring people together and unite them, and we build that way.
Okay.
So we shut down a Bank of America branch in Jersey City on behalf of one of our homeowners, because she has been battling with Bank of America for the last 2-3 years now, and just getting wall after wall after wall. And in fact, they gave her a modification offer that was $200 higher than what the original payment she couldn't afford to make was to begin with. So we shut down the branch of Bank of America. 60 protesters and elected officials all supported Grace. And again, it was a great action, and more people came out, and more people are getting involved. We also were able to partner with Councilman Darren Sharif in Newark to call for these hearings that really look at the foreclosure crisis in its current state in Newark, and bringing this issue that I think our governor and this administration really do want to think it's just going to go away on its own. And it's
you know,
not.
it's a matter of also thinking in terms of, because of a situation whereas one of the advocacy groups, the Irvington group, the Coalition of Home, what is it?
Coalition to Save Our Homes.
The Coalition to Save Our Homes shared with us that there was a support in regard to a moratorium on evictions. And then when they actually went to the freeholders to invite them to participate in it, they shared with them that they had no clue as to how to be able to do it.
Right.
We know that that's not really true. How do we really come up with the strategies of making sure that when we go out, that we're well educated enough to tell them that they're lying?
Right. So I think there are some talking points that are really important. The crisis has hit New Jersey is among the hardest. We're still the second highest state rate of foreclosure in the country. It's not getting better. We have 300,000 people at least in the pipeline or underwater right now, meaning they owe more on their mortgages than their homes are worth in this current market. And we know statistically that those underwater mortgages are more likely to go into default and foreclosure eventually. We also have about, maybe more, 100,000 homeowners currently in the pipeline for foreclosure, actively anytime could be moving through the court system and going through that process. So we're looking at 100,000 homeless families in New Jersey with no plan to stop it. And so our demand as Communities United is what other states across the country, and a lot of research now is coming out to support, that if we reset those mortgages, that let's say you owe $300,000 on your mortgage, it's now worth, because the banks inflated it to begin with, it's now worth $150,000. Our demand is to write down, for the banks to write down that mortgage to the current market value, absolve that $150,000 debt, give the homeowner a mortgage they can afford, stabilize the family, stabilize the community, and really inject. If you think about it's on in New Jersey, if we were to do this, it would be an average of between $500 and $600 a month extra in a homeowner's pocket. Think of what that would do to the economy, right? If you get that money back into the hands of the homeowner. So our demand is large-scale principal reduction. It's happening a little bit through some federal programs and through the Home Keepers program, although the Home Keepers program was administered by the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, and for the first 2 years of it, they only gave 86 or 89 loans or something, and they got enough pressure from community advocacy groups and housing policy people that they finally started to loosen up those restrictions somewhat, and they're finally starting to move, but it's really looking like it's too little too late. So those programs are good. They're not enough to the scale of the problem.
Okay.
So large-scale principal reduction. That's our demand.
Okay.
There are strategies out there that we don't really care like how it happens, as long as the homeowner, as long as it's good for the communities and the homeowners. But that's
kind of like the focus where we're going. Now, there are organizations that have been able to convince government to become a part of it in other states.
Right.
What states can you say are being successful that we can use as a base of example?
I mean, California has some strong partnerships with community organizations like Communities United and local elected officials who are really starting to take some bold steps in figuring out how to get to scale on principal reduction and stabilizing this crisis. But really, aside from that, it's been more piecemeal. It's been, I know we have a really great program here. So New Jersey Community Capital was offered willingly. The FHA had a certain pool of mortgages that were particularly toxic, and they sold those mortgages. They offered them up for sale in different states. Florida was one of them, and New Jersey happened to be one of them also. So Community Capital raised private capital and some other, I think, public or grant funding to be able to buy those mortgages, write them down, and sell them back. And I know 150 or so of those were actually in Newark, and they were owner occupied, so the families participated in this, and now they're able to really be in a home they can afford. So, but 150, when we have 100,000 people in the pipeline for foreclosure is not enough. So more models like that, where we have money being raised for, to buy these mortgages and turn them around and sell them back to the homeowner at an affordable rate is that's the answer. It's just how do we get to scale?
And it's not a futile or a futile. It's not futile in relationship to saying that this can happen.
It can.
There are strategies that make sense.
Yes.
And logic to a relationship of not just demanding government to do something, but here is a solution. Here is an idea that can really work. One of the things that we really want to make sure that we prepare ourselves to demonstrate in this presentation is that it is very important that people who are watching what we're talking about today participate in the activities that we're about to organize. It is nothing to be ashamed of. No one is going to compromise your livelihood or create some type of animosity against you where you won't be able to sustain a good living. What we need to do, though, is challenge an opportunity to know who you are so that we can adequately proceed in getting the problem resolved. We're going to be coordinating an event very soon. And in relationship to that is going to be a collaboration of different organizations and government leaders that have been taking a real strong stand in this effort to change the problems that's going on in our community. You did mention Councilman Darren Sharif, who did take the effort of coordinating a forum.
Yes.
That type of forum now would really work well once we build it here in Irvington.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now, the standard that we're really looking for is to perhaps maybe even take it to the state level. When we do these types of things, right, will there be any kind of resistance that people would have to worry about?
So yes, there's resistance. I think from an elected official level, we're 5 years into this crisis, and there's still, we don't know what to do still, and so I think. Also shifting the blame, I think sometimes our elected officials feel overwhelmed, as much overwhelmed on a massive scale as the homeowner feels when, how do you, I know from the elected officials I've spoken with at a local level, they care about the people that they represent and serve, and to watch our communities be hollowed out and not know what to do about it is really frustrating. So rather than, I don't want to point any fingers or place any blame, we have an opportunity to come together and to really partner and have these conversations and to escalate and to put pressure where it needs to be, because what is still the message that's happening, and I know when we put out a newspaper article about a homeowner who's struggling, then there's always somebody in the comments fields of those that says, well, she shouldn't have, blaming her. And so we get that. But I think it is more and more telling these people's stories and getting them in front of people with power to help, and getting partners, really strong partners like Councilman Sharif. And we have 2 strong partners here in Irvington who have been meeting with us to do these hearings in Irvington, Councilman Lyons and Councilwoman Fredericks. And they're very much interested in looking at solutions and hearing from homeowners and continuing to escalate. And I would like to see, a fire is started in Newark, and a fire is started here, and I wanted to see it spread all over, so that the state level administration can no longer ignore what's happening to the state. There seems to be this message that New Jersey is on a comeback, and maybe that's true for some people, but it's a small minority of people, and the rest of us are left holding the price tag for that, and we're losing our homes. We're losing our schools. We're losing, and it's criminal. And when you say we need to come out, like, yes, that's the thing that I want. The people who are listening to this, we need you. Your voices. Everybody counts, and everybody has a role to play. And I know. We're working 2 jobs. You're working 6 nights a week, and you have a family that you never see. And I'm still asking you to come out and get involved. Come to this hearing. Come to an action. Come to get involved and understand and find out what's going on in this community, because they're together. When you're calling your bank and you're fighting with your bank to get a better deal so that you can stay in your home, you are one of millions of homeowners across this country. And if we all came together to have that same fight, it would bring the system to its knees. They would have to do something. They would have to do something meaningful to keep us in our homes, and not give us a modification that's going to cost us more money. Or I had a homeowner who went through a year of applying for a modification with her lender. And they came back after all of that and a heart attack and all of the stress.
Right.
They came back with a $45 a month less payment. So her payment was $45 less every month than it was before.
Like that's really a solution.
It's insulting.
And we have to continue to fight and be a part of what's happening.
Yes.
So
you are not alone.
You are not alone. And our effort, We Care Partners, partnering with different organizations, responsible citizenship begins with you. And this is a part of that relationship. Our theme this year, Rebuilding the Village, is now working to come up with ways in which we can raise awareness in our communities to build the promise for a solution so that people in our communities can live fairly, decently, and be able to have a future that they can all be proud of. Mary, we thank you. We know this is not going to be the last time that we have an opportunity to talk with you. We definitely want to engage a relationship that maybe once a week, maybe if you're not going to be here physically, we'll do something over the phone.
Great.
But we want to definitely keep you in our involvement of raising the awareness and keeping people informed on where we are and how we can move to the next level in support of this wonderful effort. We thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the work you're doing.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. And thank you for tuning in.